So we're going to please stand for the presentation of colors by the Illinois State University ROTC and the national anthem performed by Ms. Cassandra Dodge.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Take your seats. Thank you, Ms. Dodge. And I failed to mention that Ms. Dodge is the president of the ISU Student Veterans Club. So it was nice to have a veteran out in front of us. Very inspiring national anthem. Thank you. All right. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the newly appointed president of Illinois State University, Dr. Larry Dietz. President Dietz earned a PhD in higher education administration and a master's degree in higher education administration and student personnel from Iowa State University. President Dietz also represented the American Universities Iraq Consortium on a panel with Prime Minister al-Maliki and represented Southern Illinois University at the Iraq Education Initiative in Baghdad. Please join me in a warm round of applause for President Dietz.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that kind introduction. Sometimes when I'm asked to speak, some of the folks will give me a card or a piece of paper that will indicate how long I'm supposed to speak. Sometimes we're waiting for people to come from places like Chicago where they had snow and ice last night, and sometimes things are a little more brief than that. So the size of the paper sometimes indicates the length of the presentation, and sometimes it's an 8.5 by 14, sometimes it's an 8.5 by 11, and this morning as I walked into this room I was given this, so I won't be up here for very long. Very much appreciate the opportunity to greet you this morning on behalf of Illinois State University. We have a lot of events in this facility, in the Bone Student Center, and a lot of events in the Brown Ballroom. None of those events are more important than this event that we're having today. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this workshop so we can learn how to serve our veterans even more efficiently and effectively perhaps than we're doing now. So thank you very much for doing that. On behalf of the entire campus community, it's really our pleasure to welcome you, and it's an honor for Illinois State to serve as the host for this important event today. I also want to say a big thank you to all the organizers of the event, and a special thank you to the individual on campus who coordinated a lot of the time and effort to make this possible, and that's Jess Ray, our registrar, who's also a veteran, and he and his staff work very closely with the other academic affairs staff and the other student affairs staff and many other components of the institution to make sure that your needs are being met here. We are indeed grateful for your service, and to the people of Illinois State University, we're proud to offer our array of services to veterans, guardsmen, reservists, and dependents. The young lady who sang here, we're very proud of her as being part of the registered student organization, Veterans at Illinois State. It's a chapter of the Student Veterans of America. It's an organization aimed at creating and promoting camaraderie amongst veterans, generating awareness of veterans on campus, connecting members with on-campus resources needed for college success, and serving as a voice for student service members, veterans, and their families on campus. Our Veteran Study Center is located in 110 Moulton Hall, is available for use by student veterans, those currently serving on active duty, and students in the Military Science ROTC program. This center provides a place for students to gather and study, and is a venue for programs designed to assist student veterans. And it was indeed my pleasure to be the ribbon cutter at that a few years ago when we opened that, and that's another great collaboration between our academic affairs and student affairs team to provide that service. So just a few points of pride. In February 2013, Illinois State signed the Got Your Six pledge. Illinois State is named in the Military Friendly Schools list published by GI Jobs magazine, and Military Advanced Education has selected ISU as a top military friendly school. In addition, Illinois State is actively engaged in providing multiple training and development opportunities for faculty, staff members, and students. Of course, all that we do in this area pales in comparison to what the veterans have done and what you continue to do for us. So you have my pledge as the president of this institution that we will continue to serve our heroes and to make Illinois State a warm and welcoming environment for all. And please know that all of you will be welcome at Illinois State anytime. If this is your first trip, we hope that you'll come back. If you're a regular tender, we look forward to greeting you again the next time that you're on campus. And I'm one of those individuals they were talking about. Some folks will be coming in and out of this meeting today. Some of the folks that are coming down from Chicago, and my understanding is that the snow got a little late start for them. I'm going to be one of those that will be coming in and out, so I have to go to some other commitments today, but I'll be back for lunch and look forward to meeting as many of you as I can over lunch. So thanks again for investing your time and energy in this important topic, and thank you very much for your presence here today, and have a good workshop. Thanks so much.
Thank you, President Dietz. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. James Applegate, the Executive Director of the Illinois Board of Higher Education. Prior to starting in this position here recently, Dr. Applegate served as the Vice President for Program Development at the Lumina Foundation, where he led the development of Lumina's funding program supporting Goal 2025. He has also served as the Senior Fellow and Vice President for Academic Affairs at the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education in Lexington, as well as Professor of Communication and Department Chair at the University of Kentucky in Lexington. Dr. Applegate earned his PhD and MA in Communications from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and his BA in American Studies from Georgetown College in Georgetown, Kentucky. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Applegate to our conference. Thank you.
So they didn't even give me a card, so I don't know how long I'm supposed to go. But let me say I'm honored to be here. As I said, as was noted, I recently took this position in February, actually, in Illinois. But I know I'm here with my agency colleagues from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, from the Community College Board, and I think the president from Illinois State. I think it is a genuine statement about the way in which we want to cooperate and work together to ensure that our veterans have the opportunities they deserve in our higher education system to achieve the credentials they need to continue to be able to contribute their talents to our state and to our country. I grew up as a child near a military base, a large military base, Fort Knox in Kentucky, which some of you may be familiar with. And so most of my classmates throughout school were children of people in service. And even at that young age, I began to see the sacrifices that not only veterans, but their families make in order to serve this country. It was mentioned that I recently came here from the Lumina Foundation. At the Lumina Foundation, I led all of our grant making, and we devoted considerable effort, rightly so, to try to make sure that veterans all across this country were able to access the benefits they deserve and be able to move into a higher education system that met their needs. If you haven't seen it, there's a magazine that Lumina publishes called Focus. And late last year, one of the Focus magazine was entitled Friendly Forces. And the entire magazine was devoted to richly portraying the voices of veterans from around this country in higher education and others who work in these programs, demonstrating both what we are doing to try to support veterans and what we need to be doing. And there is much we need to do. I'd just like to take a minute, and there's a few experiences I've had talking and working with veterans across the country that have really planted themselves pretty centrally in my mind and in my heart, and have given me a great deal of guidance in thinking about what are the things that we need to do to really be able to serve veterans well. And of course, this conference is focusing on some of those issues. And again, thanks to the Campus Compact for being a partner in this conference. I was an active member of the Campus Compact on its consulting corps and deeply understand the kind of contributions that engaged learning and service learning can provide to enrich the opportunities for all students in college, but certainly for you. But let me just share a few of those. I had a friend who was a veteran. He was attending a very well-known university in Indiana when I was there. I won't name it since I'm going to be critical of it. And he actually was also a bartender at a wonderful wine tasting bar there in Indianapolis, which I visited very rarely, but I did get to know this young man very well. And he told me, he said, Dr. Applegate, he said, I was an air traffic controller in the military. Went through enormous amounts of coursework and training, et cetera, to be allowed to land multi-million-dollar jets at military Air Force bases. And when he left the military, he wanted to come back and get a baccalaureate degree in that area, a very popular baccalaureate degree that would allow him to advance his career. Well, his institution had an arbitrary rule that said, well, it would only accept so many credits from this kind of outside work. And so what he said to me, he said, Dr. Applegate, here's what's happening. I'm taking all these courses that I already know everything that's in the course. I'm showing up I have the syllabus, and I'm showing up every day to take the exams. I make 100, and then I come back for the next exam. He said, the problem with this is there's several of them. It's really slowing me down and getting me to my baccalaureate degree. It's costing money, and he said, Dr. Applegate, some of that's your money because I'm on GI benefits going to college. And he said, I happen to know this is a very popular high-demand program, and I happen to know that my heads of my program are telling the university they don't have enough seats for all the students who want to get a major in this program. And he said, Dr. Applegate, I give up my seat in a heartbeat. Just give me the credit and let me move on. I already know this stuff. So that made obvious to me. The moral of that quote is, we need better ways to do prior learning assessment and to be able to give you credit for what you already know when you come to our institutions, so you can start where you need to start and not where we make everybody else start, and get your degree faster and less expensively and get out there and start contributing your talent. Another veteran I met in my travels, he was talking to me after I'd given a talk, and he came up and he said, Dr. Applegate, he said, I want you to know something. He said, when I drove into the parking lot and parked my car and started walking across the parking lot to begin my community college work, he said, I was more afraid walking across that parking lot than at any time in my 3 tours in Iraq. And I think that's something else we need to understand, is that veterans, and for that matter, I would say adult students coming back to college, need a welcoming environment, need student supports, both academic and whole student supports, to help them get through the process, and we need to be able to provide those in ways that are adapted to the needs they bring, which are not the needs that an 18-year-old coming right out of college needs. So that was a lesson I learned there. There's a quote in the Focus magazine from Matt Randall, an Army Reserve vet, who says, "Across the veteran population, we do an amazing job of taking care of each other, and we do a piss-poor job of taking care of ourselves." And what he meant by it, and so what that suggests to me is in these services, and I've talked to veterans who say, look, we learned in the military, asking for help is not something we do easily. At least I heard that from a lot of veterans. So we need programs, frankly, that are intrusive, that make sure students and veterans get the help that they need, and not sit back and say, well, nobody's showing up. We've got a program and no one's coming, and therefore we must not need this program. Another veteran said, you go from a military bureaucracy that tells you just about everything to do to a higher education bureaucracy that doesn't tell you anything to do. It's a movement from night to day. And we're working in Illinois with a program called Guided Pathways as an example, where for all of our students, but for you as well, we provide more guidance in terms of the pathways that you need to follow, the courses you need to take, semester by semester, giving you the help you need to make sure that you are on the path to efficiently and effectively and less expensively get to the careers that you want to achieve. One other example, a veteran who had completed their baccalaureate degree, who just assumed they'd probably used up all their benefit money. But thanks to an advising effort and someone who knew a lot about financial aid, they were able to discover that in pursuing their medical career that they were eligible for another $26,000 to help them pursue their medical career. They would not have had access to that without that kind of smart, intrusive, helpful financial aid advising. We need to make sure we have the services on campus, this is something we worked on a lot when I was at Lumina, so that it is easy for you to access the benefits you so richly deserve. Sometimes it almost seems like we put so many hoops in there that we don't want you to get those benefits, and we need to do better with that. So let me sum up. So when we think about this, prior learning assessment so you can get in and get credit for what you already know and move faster to those credentials that you need. And let me tell you, you need them because our data would suggest, national data would suggest, that nearly 2/3 of every new and replacement job in Illinois, and this is true in most states in the country, over the next several years will require a college credential. So without that, you're in a very difficult straits in terms of starting that career that you want. But we need prior learning assessment. We need better and more intrusive advising that provides support to the whole student. We need more engaged learning, as Campus Compact will talk about today, where we can see the relevance of what we're learning to the world that we're going to have to live in. And let me tell you a little secret. If we do this for you, which we must, but if we make this available to all of our students, you will have helped all of our students succeed, because these are the same things that every student needs in order to move and succeed and get that degree so that they can have a successful life. So again, I'm honored to be here. I thank you for being here. I thank all the others who are here to be a part of this program today. And I look forward to having some discussions around those issues. And let me tell you, we need you, your veterans. You've served the country in so many huge ways. But let me tell you, we still need you. Because what we need now is your talent. We need your experience. And we need you to have a degree that will open the doors so you can continue to help this country be the kind of country we all want it to be, with opportunity for all of our citizens. Thanks for being here.
All right, next it's my pleasure to introduce Assistant Director Rodrigo Garcia. He's the Assistant Director of the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs. Assistant Director Garcia is a Marine Corps veteran, served overseas on 3 separate tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, earning multiple decorations. He holds undergraduate and graduate degrees in finance from Northeastern Illinois University and the University of Illinois at Chicago. He is currently pursuing a second postgraduate degree in public policy from Northwestern University. As the Assistant Director of the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, he is responsible for over 1,300 staff members, 80+ statewide offices, and he oversees numerous programs and service divisions. He also serves as the chairman of the National Board of Directors of the Student Veterans of America. Please help me in welcoming Assistant Director Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. And first, I want to give a quick thanks to Dr. Applegate for those eloquent words and for his time at the Lumina Foundation. You know, last year, I picked up an article on a very reputable news source who said, by this time next fall, 88% of student veterans will drop out. 88% is the narrative that was being pushed out in this particular news medium. And because of support of organizations like the Lumina Foundation and various others, a report was recently released just a few weeks ago that completely debunks that myth and says that 60% of student veterans graduate within 7 years. We all know we have families and we have other barriers that we have to adjust for, but we are in line with the rest of the American population. And so we are supposed to change the narrative. So with that, you know, I wanted to give a quick thank you to Dr. Applegate. Now, I would say that I also want to thank the Board of Higher Ed and all the partners that are here today for an invitation not only to all of you, but also to me to come up here and say a few words. But today I'm going to take a slightly different tack. I want to talk to you about an issue that has a long and complex history in the realm of in the American dialogue, in the history of the American dialogue. And I believe that is an issue that we can advance here today just by talking about it, by interacting with one another, and just by having discussions around this. Now, the issue that I want to talk to you about is the civilian-military divide. It's characterized as the general disconnect between those who have served in uniform and those who have not. And it's particularly very pervasive in this generation of post-9/11 veterans. Now, last year, the Pew Research Center said that 84% of us, 84% of the post-9/11 GI veteran generation have said that the American public does not understand our issues. They do not understand our plight. And the general public agrees, although by a less lopsided 71%. So why is this? Well, if you break it down by the numbers, you can see that this generation of veterans is proportionally smaller than other generations past. Only about 1/2% of the U.S. population has served on active duty at any given time over the last decade of sustained warfare. So you can see how the numbers are telling. That being the case, most people do not have a connection to the U.S. military. Now, they may have an older relative who may have served in Vietnam or World War II. Nonetheless, this generation is just so much smaller. And as such, the issues of today's returning service members are not in the forefront of everyone's minds. And that is understandable. In these challenging times, folks are worried about financial hurdles, issues at home, work obligations, and other personal pressing matters, including, unfortunately, what is on the most recent episode of The Kardashians. So when it comes to returning veterans and the issues that they face as they transition back into society, for most people, their issues are usually noted in a news segment, or they perhaps are sensationalized in some type of action movie, or perhaps we see them as a tribute at a sports event. That is usually how the general populace sees how they interact with the military veteran population. Now, these forms of outreach, I would say, they serve an important purpose, but they lack the staying power. The staying power that comes with a true, non-superficial personal connection. So, because when the issue is truly tangible, when the issue hits home, and it is personal, affecting either yourself or a loved one, the segment does not end. We can't just change the channel, just can't push it to the back of your mind. So all of this could lead one to place blame on the news media or politicians or some other popular punching bag that may be coming, or that may be the thing of the day, to take the brunt of our misdirected frustration. Or one could attribute it to modern-day conscription policies where we have an all-volunteer force. Or it could just be, we can say that the military doesn't hold the same dominion that it once did. Now, recently, the Pentagon Press Secretary, Rear Admiral John Kirby, noted in an article in the Washington Post editorial he did, he emphasized that perhaps it's also an issue that veterans need to do a better job of also understanding and making a concerted effort to relating to their non-military counterparts, to their civilian counterparts. Or he also notes that perhaps service members and veterans should not be guest speakers, maybe even as I am here today. And instead, we should invite non-veteran folks to come up here and speak to us and interact with us and give us their perspective in terms of the types of communications that we want to hear. And I would say, while these communications are certainly important to be able to hear and understand from people that we relate to, I couldn't agree more that sometimes we need to get off our own soapboxes. And as a veteran as a Marine Corps veteran who likes to hear myself speak from time to time, I would say that that applies to me as well. We need to take more time and have interaction with people in a more candid and a more familiar setting, in a more personal forum where we can relate our experiences and we can understand their experiences, so we can come together and understand each other's plights. But truly, we need open roundtable discussions. We need to have an engaging one-on-one conversations without the shackles of formality. Too often, veterans are either pegged as mighty superheroes, the Rambo types, or as damaged goods, as the pitiable, emotionally distressed victims suffering from post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, the signature wounds of this generation. And while there are certainly heroes who have served abroad, and while PTS and TBI are certainly issues that we need to do a better job of addressing, most veterans come back and are lucky enough not to be struggling with these challenges. And those who are, they definitely do not want to be coddled or treated as second-class citizens. We need to open up new forms of communications that break down these stereotypes, that show that veterans are regular citizens who rose to a special form of citizenship, the call of service. And in doing so, they set an example for all of us as a nation. Now, I'm going to give you a quick lesson, if you don't know, about the etymology of the word citizen. The etymology of the word citizen. Now, an idiot in Athenian democracy was someone who was characterized by their self-centeredness and concerned almost exclusively with their private affairs as opposed to public affairs. Now, idiocy was the natural state of ignorance into which all persons were born, and its opposite, citizenship, was earned through education and public service. So what are the stakes? Over the next 5 years, over 1.5 million service members will be reintegrating back into civilian society, as some of you are here today. Now, bridging this divide means positioning our nation to truly harness the skills and sense of purpose ingrained in our nation's veterans. These men and women will continue to be civic assets wherever they go, whether it's John F. Kennedy or George McGovern, for example, two people who not only served in our armed forces, but gave decades of public service. A bridge divide can result in 24 Pulitzer Prize winners, 14 Nobel Peace Prize winners, a dozen senators, 3 U.S. Supreme Court justices, 3 U.S. presidents, a chairman of the Federal Reserve. So I would say definitely the stakes are high. To finish up, we need to recognize that our entire nation has been at war since 9/11. That's over 13 years. Not just our military veterans and their families, it's an entire nation. Both veterans and American citizens need to do a better job of understanding and utilizing one another. And in doing so, both our national security and our success as a nation will be greatly enhanced. So let us not live like idiots and instead live like citizens. Thank you very much.
All right, at this time, I think we'll move into the meat of the conference, and I'd like to ask Ms. Amy Sherman to come up to the stage to provide us with some information on Illinois joining forces. Amy is the Associate Vice President for Policy and Strategic Alliances at the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning. She's also the Chairman of the Illinois Joining Forces Education Working Group. Her work focuses on increasing access to adult learning and improving its quality. In this role, Ms. Sherman engages in policy research and analysis, coalition building, advocacy, and technical assistance to state and federal policy leaders. Ms. Sherman.
Okay, I don't think you're going to be able to see me. All right, I'll stand on my tiptoes and just imagine me. It'll be good enough. Do we have the PowerPoint up? Could use a little help with this. Dan, I assume it was loaded.
Which one is it?
It should be IBHEPP, I guess. I don't see it there.
Me neither. Video, Maui, video, Butcher Class.
We'll get there.
IBHPP. There we go.
Thank you.
And I
Thanks.
think here's the clicker. Hopefully it works.
Super. Let's just get it on.
Presentation. There we go.
Perfect.
All right.
So thanks everyone for coming. I'm curious just if I can get a raise by show of hands. How many are from this area? How many came from Chicago? Good person. How from southern part of Illinois? So we have a good representation here, and that's exactly what Illinois Joining Forces is about, which is to get everyone together throughout the state committed to serving veterans, their families, so that we can do a better job in terms of serving them, but also to create some better connections. I want to first thank the event sponsors, which if you look at your sponsorship list, it shows you just the connectedness that we have in our state of working together to try to make a difference in this issue. And it's interesting for me, I spoke last year at this event, and at that time, Illinois Joining Forces was brand new. We had very little to talk about other than to announce that it existed at that point. And I want to talk to you about how much has happened in the past year with IJF and really encourage you to get involved, okay? So how many of you know what IJF is, first of all? Okay, not everybody here. So I'm going to give a little bit of a overview. But first, let me mention my organization very quickly so you know where I come from. I work at CALE, as Dan mentioned, and this is a national nonprofit. Our whole focus is on the adult learner. In fact, we've worked with Director Applegate for many years in his work on trying to promote adult learning. And really what we're trying to do is make that linkage between work and learning work for adults. I lead the veterans area of work for CALE. And what we have found is also, I think Jim mentioned quite eloquently, is that a lot of the things that are important for adult learners are the same things that are important for veterans. And the things that we do to help serve veterans really helps to serve all adults that are trying to make their way back to college and to get the credentials they need for meaningful work. As I said, I was asked to speak about Illinois joining forces. This is a statewide effort, and the idea is really to break down silos. By the way, there are handouts of this presentation in the back, so later on, you don't have to take notes or anything, you can get it there. The idea is to create a no wrong door approach for serving our veterans. As you know, there are so many people working to try to help and to empower veterans and to provide services. We're almost stumbling over each other in this country trying to do that. But when you're the veteran who's trying to figure out where the heck to go to get some help, it can be absolutely paralyzing. Jim talked about the need for better advising at different points. I think that's a really critical piece of this. But it's also, those of us who are working in this space, we need to get our act together to work together to do a better job of coordinating and communicating in a way that makes sense for the veterans. So this is a network. It's primarily public entities and nonprofit entities, although there is private involvement. And the idea is to create this kind of system of support. A lot of what we're doing is we are hosting events, we're trying to get information out on best practices, we're playing that intermediary role, and we're doing a lot of training on military competencies so that people understand, as Rodrigo was talking about, that trying to help bridge that gap between civilian and military culture. And the vision really is to create a better sense of awareness and collaboration, increase some of that navigation for the support system, but I think also make sure that everyone in Illinois really understands that everyone can have a role in serving the SMVF, the service member, veteran, and their families. We can all do that together, and it doesn't have to be big things. It can just be welcoming people, helping in the transition, helping them understand what are the opportunities out there, and helping, I think, in a sense, to recognize the value, too, that we're very fortunate. And we've made a tremendous investment in higher education, and I think that's important to recognize. And it's not just the federal government, but it's interesting to note that, there's already been $30 billion invested under the post-9/11 GI Bill for education benefits, and almost 1 million veterans, service members, and their families have gone to college because of this. That's important. We want to make sure that when you're going to college in Illinois, it's for a meaningful credential. It's getting you somewhere. You're getting the best opportunities to maximize the use of that. You're having informed choice of how you're using your benefits. And we need to do this. Illinois is the 7th largest veteran population in the country. So we have a tremendous, over 700,000 veterans. I think it's closer to 1 million. There's a real issue of veterans underreporting and tracking issues of veterans. But if you look, it's not all recent new veterans. I mean, we have a real wide range of veterans from different eras. And I think that's something I really think it's important that we look at. How do we make sure we're serving all veterans in Illinois? How are we making sure we don't forget those who served in Vietnam, for example, or the Gulf War era? So when we look at veterans, let's make sure we have that continuum. Getting back to IJF, IJF is organized in a way where we have a website. I'm going to talk a little bit about that so it's a great resource to you. But also, in terms of the rolling up the sleeves and getting things done piece of this, it's divided into working groups. And here are the various working groups. You can see it's a wide range of issues because we've come to recognize that there are many different areas of concern, areas of challenge, and areas of opportunities for veterans. Everything from looking at legal support to looking at education or employment. I chair the education working group, and I've been asked today to talk to you about some of the things we're doing. I really want to encourage all of you to get involved in this. Talk about an open door. We really want your engagement. Big thing we're doing right now is we are doing a major train the trainer sessions where we had done polling of student veterans. We talked a lot to administrators, and one of the big things that came out is We want to do more with faculty and in the classroom to make sure faculty really understand the value of veterans in their classroom, understand where there may be some potential challenges, and give some really practical tips on just what to do in the classroom that's a more supportive environment. So IJF is doing now, very ambitious, it's all through the state. We're doing a series of Train the Trainers where a faculty member and the Veterans Services Coordinator come for a training session where we give them a curriculum and help them sort of pull together a session customized for their school, and they go back and train the faculty. Faculty and institutions that are part of IJF will then also get a decal showing they're a vet ally, so then the student veterans will know, hey, this is a space where I can come, I can check out this faculty member, this office. So that's one of the things we're doing. Those of you who might be interested in participating in that training, don't know if there's schools involved in this, that is up on the IJF website, or you can talk to me afterwards. The other piece is on prior learning assessment and recognizing military learning, which, as Jim mentioned, is an extremely important issue for student veterans. And a couple things are happening in Illinois that's been endorsed through IJF. One is looking at where's the transparency? How are student veterans supposed to find out if their learning counts at a school? How can they, while they're looking at different programs, recognize and say, okay, this is where I got training. How does that translate, if at all, to academic credit? So through something called Transferology that used to be called USelect, this is a database, you can actually go in online, put in when you're trained, and be able to see, gee, does this count toward my program credit to degree requirements, et cetera, toward my program? Because the other issue with PLA is often you'll find learning's recognized, but it's kind of in a wasteland of electives that aren't really counting toward your degree. Transferology tries to deal with that. This is still very new, it's just launching, but this is exciting. This kind of thing where we get better transparency also, I think, will help drive that message back to schools that student veterans really care about this issue, and they're looking at this as they shop at programs. The other piece is there's a statewide pilot involving 6 schools where we're looking at really articulating a pathway where, for example, let's say you've had medical training, you can actually, almost 2/3 of the courses that you would be required to take to be an LPN can be waived, so that you can get that credential quicker. It's recognizing the learning you have. This is just rolling out as well, but the idea is to get more and more of these kind of articulated career pathways where you can look through. I know we're looking at EMTs, for example, police officer training. So that's another really interesting piece of those. For those who want more information, let me know. But this is a statewide pilot. The idea is to really prove the concept and start to get more and more schools involved in making clear pathways from military learning that we recognize and translating that into a more accelerated approach to credentials. Other things, we've done advisor training to help advisors so they understand, for example, financial benefits, which we all know can be extremely confusing, but also understand military culture, career pathways. We are now hosting a series of webinars. The next one is going to be on financial benefits. It's going to be in June. We will post an announcement on IJF. These are meant to be very practical to help those who are either serving veterans or the veterans themselves. The one in June, we really like to get a lot of students checking it out. It's meant to be helpful to them as they think about next year's financial aid package. And then finally, we're dealing on career development. I see one of the big organizers, Roman, down there at the table, but we're doing something called Veterans as Strategic Assets. And the idea has been to both focus on employers and getting them engaged, but for the students to host a series of events throughout the state where we have panels that represent veterans in the private, nonprofit, and government sector who are working and talk about how they got there, and then also to have a series of networking partners, and these are particularly their employers who have volunteered to say, hey, you can work on your practicing networking skills with me. I can tell you about career information. I can help you. I can be a resource to you. And this has been a very successful series of events, and we're going to continue to do that kind of work so that we're getting more direct interaction with student veterans. I wanted to talk a little bit just about the website because I think, and it is still a work in progress, but we really want this website to be a place that veterans and those serving veterans can go to get resources. And as you can see, and I just did a few screenshots to give you a flavor for this, there's a little welcoming screen so that if you're a service member or a veteran or a family member, you can very quickly click to the screenshots that you need in terms of getting referrals or finding out about events. And the idea is that you can actually look through the whole member directory if you want and see, okay, who's signed up for this? Who are these organizations? What are they doing? And get some description and contact information around them. And then if you have specific needs, you can actually do a keyword search to find the resources that you might need, and also click onto the working groups if there's a certain topic that you're interested in getting connected with. Finally, you can also look at events. There are a lot of events being posted on the website. You can do it by date. You can just look at the whole month. But that's an interesting thing. I highly recommend you take a look at that. You'd be surprised how many neat things are in there. For example, just looking at April 29th, there's a workshop on entrepreneurship. There's something on military culture. There's something looking at Sexual Assault Awareness Month and looking at military sexual trauma. It's a wide range of different activities. I also want to encourage those of you who work at college campuses, post your events. This is a great way to get the word out. And then for those of you who are here as student veterans, if you need help, even if it's just, a contact name for somebody, or you have a specific issue you're addressing, and it doesn't have to just be around school, one of the things you can do is fill out this Contact Us form, and we then look, and the IJF administrator triages these and then gets them to the right person and gets back to you. So this is a way for you to maybe cut through some of the red tape and get some of the help you need. So what can you do to be involved in IJF? For one, those of you who are at schools or administrators or nonprofits, join up. It's not a very heavy lift in terms of what's required of you. We have in the back and handouts a little bit about IJF and what membership means. Also, use the referral process. After you become a member, you would be one of the resources as well. Join the working group. The Education Working Group is very ambitious. We're trying to do a lot of things, and we need input. We really want to hear from those of you at the schools telling us what you think the priorities are, and then getting engaged with us. It's a very open structure, and we want you to be involved. And then finally, spread the word. Let people know about IJF. It's still early, it's still new, but when I think where we are from a year ago when we just started, so much is happening. It's pretty exciting. So I'm going to end with that. You're going to be hearing more about one of the wonderful organizations with Illinois Campus Compact and their engagement. I want to just say a thank you to them because they've been really involved in IJF as a part of that. And that's the other piece, that for those of you who are students out here, you can get involved. We can work on ways, even through some work study, through other pieces, volunteer to get involved in IJF. So if this is of interest to you, to think about this as a more of a system approach of helping veterans, please talk with me. And I think I've probably used up all my time, haven't I? Have I? Okay. Do I have time for questions or no? Okay. Well, I'd be curious if anyone has any questions about IJF, and then I have a question for you. Okay, I'm glad to hear I was so clear. Oh, yes. Rowan. That's a good question. Depending how often do you meet was the question, if you join. You are required to come to some meetings and participate in a working group. I can tell you for the education working group, we meet once a month, but it's mostly by phone. It's not a heavy lift in terms of the meetings. It's not meant to be about 1 million meetings. Different working groups structured differently, depending on, if they may have you in a subcommittee working on a particular issue. But it's not meant to be like, let's have another meeting for a meeting, that's for sure. I just have one quick question for everyone here. Are there any issues? You heard I gave you a whole list of issues, of things we're working on. Was there anything in terms of the education working group that you felt, wow, that is missing, why aren't they working on this? Don't be shy. Well, you can be, but still answer the question. Anything you heard about it? Faculty training, advising training, financial benefits? Yes? You know, what we're doing, I mean, we did just add a new slot with National Louis in June, and what we're going to be doing is analyzing locations and then seeing, do we need to add another train the trainer someplace else? There is a certain point where we're just going to have to cut it, but we are looking at that, and if there's an issue, let us know. Yeah, are all of you, you know, those of you from institutions, have all of you signed up for Train the Trainer? At least have somebody from your school, remember, one faculty member and Veteran Services Coordinator? Because if not, I highly recommend it. This is such a deal, to be able to get your training given, pretty much handed to you on a silver platter with the training to do the training. It's a really easy way to expand this activity. Okay, I'll leave it at that. If anyone has any suggestions for us, you can talk to us during the break. Thank you very much.
All right, next I'd like to introduce Ms. Kathy Engelken. She's the Executive Director of the Illinois Campus Compact, a position which she has held for over 14 years now. Ms. Engelken has a Bachelor of Arts in English Education from the University of Northern Iowa and a master's degree from Loyola University in Chicago. I do know that she is going to be leading us in a panel discussion, and I'll allow the panel members to introduce themselves, or Ms. Engelken can introduce them. Over to the right.
We have lots of people to introduce.
Come on over here. There's some microphones over here.
Okay.
And do you have a slideshow or?
Yeah, they do. They're working out.
There you go. Good.
I think so. I can't see, but, okay, I think we have a couple of other panelists who are out there that we need. Renardo and Lindsay. Oh, hi, okay. We're getting it all together. Hold on. Okay, we have a sort of a process that we're going to use. I have brought my team with me, and I have to tell you that when you have interns and they decide to put something together, they have put together our presentation for today, which I'm very, very pleased about. So I'm going to say a little bit, and we're going to do introductions, and then we're going to go on with it. So just the team, first of all, is Rachel Blakely. Rachel is our VISTA who is working with veterans on campuses across the state of Illinois. She is the wife of a student veteran at Columbia College, so a real asset to our team, and is standing in today as the moderator because one of our moderator is so sick. We have Christina Carbone, who is at Adler. She's one of our Adler interns this semester, all in the military psychology program. And that's who's here. Sam is homesick. So I'm going to leave the rest of the panel to come up later. So Brian, would you please start?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live in the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert and I am professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am the guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier.
Thank you, Brian. These words resonate with the ideas that hold service members compass true to their commitment to each other and their mission to protect this country. It was designed to provide guidance in uncertain circumstances, to be inspirational during difficult times. But at some point, whether through retirement, end of active service, or injury, a service member will eventually take off their uniform for the last time and face their very neighborhoods that they had been protecting. For some reason, this transition is not easy, as you've heard before. Veterans are often challenged by a new way of life which seems so vastly different and so much more unforgiving than the one that they had known. Many former service members find themselves the proverbial fish out of water and feeling as though they still have more to contribute to the world. I suggest that you are right and that you have a great deal more to offer as a veteran than you may realize. There are many opportunities to draw on the leadership skills that you've had, that you've learned in the service, veterans, and are bringing those back to your community. Campus Compact helps you to do that. Our mission is to support student veterans on our campuses throughout the state of Illinois to help you see how you can move from combat to college, how you can be successful while you're there. So today, we want to help you to hear some of those ways that you can do that, to integrate some of what you're doing. I can barely see up here, just so you know. Some of those values and skills are loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage for all veterans. Each branch of service has their own version of these ideals, but taken in total, they are the American values. They represent what we hold as the highest of personal standards, and notice that selfless service is among those ideals. The willingness to give to others is what we are asking you to rediscover within you, even after the uniform is retired. We at Campus Compact hope that you will take this most important American value home with you today and remember that you can still contribute to the service of others. You can make a difference in someone's life. You are still needed. We've taken the liberty of respectfully rewriting the Soldier's Creed to reflect a change in mission if you choose to accept it, and can be just as fulfilling, challenging, and rewarding as your military experience. So we're calling it a Citizen's Creed. I'm an American citizen. I'm a neighbor and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live by American values. I will remain committed to my community. I will never accept anything but the best for myself. I will never quit. I will never have a job unfinished. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my skills to serve my neighbors and communities. I'm an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to assist the citizens of the United States of America through the civic duty. I am a living example of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American citizen. We rewrote this because we believe that it's true, not only for those of you who have been military, but those of you who are helping military to come back to community, to come back to college, to be supportive of those students who are in our lives on a daily basis. Today, what we're doing is having a panel of folks talk a little bit about various ways to do that. So I would invite the next group to come up.
Yes. Good morning. Human beings are communal creatures by nature. There is a great deal of research to support that generally people are at their best when they are engaged in social relations. In any given situation, at any given age, humans seek out those of whom they feel comfortable with. Schools form teams and clubs. Cities are often comprised of similar subsets of social groups and areas of interest, such as Little Italy or an art district. These are all evidence that given the natural course of these events, people will seek out each other. One of the most prevalent sources of this idea can be found in the structure of the military. Service members, no matter what branch of service, are coached about working as a team. never leaving others behind, and sharing the burden. Service members with vast different backgrounds of social class, gender, race, education, and religion set aside what separates them for the good of their mission, for the good of the whole. This means that former military service members are some of the most experienced within our American society when it comes to helping others. We at Illinois Campus Compact challenge all of you to continue this mission of helping others, being a part of a team. There are many people who need help in a variety of different areas, and you may be the most important resource they find. You may help to build a home that shelters a family. You may help deliver a meal to an elderly person who might not eat otherwise. You may help a child discover the value of school. If you look for a way to continue to give with the same enthusiasm that you showed during your military service, you can make a difference and be a part of a team of volunteers. But there's growing research that suggests that helping others has an added benefit to yourself. In a recent study in 2007, volunteering for others has lowered overall stress levels of the volunteer and may even have implications on healthier living. Additionally, volunteerism helps to providing experiences which can be added to resumes used in finding jobs. It provides networking opportunities and promotes some positive impressions in this highly competitive workplace. In sum, we at Illinois Campus Compact would like for you to take home the message of volunteerism. We hope that you consider taking the time to reach out to organizations which provide needed public service to communities in need. If not you, then who? If not now, when? I would now like to turn our attention to the panel discussion portion of our presentation, which we will hear from volunteers, community organizers, and professionals who have firsthand experience with volunteerism and civic duty.
How do we get out of this?
Hang on, it's coming.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Illinois Campus Compact, I'd like to welcome you to the Combat to College Conference. My name is Rachel Blakely, and I am a former Peace Corps volunteer, a current AmeriCorps volunteer, and like Kathy said, the wife of a student veteran who goes to Columbia College in Chicago. Today, our topic of discussion will hopefully plant the seed of community service with our student veterans as we discuss the value of volunteerism for the perspective of community organizations that benefit from having student veteran volunteers volunteer their time and energy to make their neighborhoods a better place. It would be pretty difficult to find a more committed group of people than those who have donned our nation's military uniform and have taken up the mantle of protecting and preserving the rights and dignities of others. Oftentimes, service members have been put into roles where they're building community resources and engaging in civic leadership in foreign countries such as Afghanistan and Iraq. Service members are an important part of establishing civic leadership roles within local populations, and these skills are an invaluable resource back here in the United States. Many poor communities at home face similar difficulties when securing basic necessities of food, water, shelter, and safety. There are untapped resources within our veteran population who have already been engaged in giving their time and energy to benefit others while they were deployed. They have an unparalleled experience with improving the lives of communities of others despite the looming cultural differences. We would like to suggest that civic service does not have to stop when the uniform comes off. Veterans have a great deal of local leadership to offer here at home, and creating this connection between military service and community service is one of our responsibilities at Illinois Campus Compact. At this time, I would like to introduce our panel members. The first is Brian Noe. He is a former sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps. He is a student veteran at Columbia College, and he founded and is the president of their Student Veterans Association. The second is Lindsay Probst. She is the current volunteer coordinator at McLean County's Habitat for Humanity. And the third is Dr. Renard Jackson. He is the Director of Outreach and Program Development at North Central College. For just a quick minute, I would like the panelists to introduce themselves and explain about their community service that they have done.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? All right. Well, when I first came to Columbia College in 2012, basically what happened was there was no student veteran organization. There was pretty much nothing related to veterans besides our veteran coordinator. So I founded the first student organization on campus, which later turned into a Student Veterans of America branch. We've been in existence for about a year, and within that 1 year, we've already hosted the first Veterans Day on campus in recognition of that. We did Toys for Tots. We did a fundraiser that raised over $23,000 for homeless veterans in Chicago through the Inner Voice Foundation. And I just think it's very important for us in general is to, as veterans, to use our skills in this light. I'd like to pass it off to her.
So again, I am Lindsay Probst. I am the volunteer coordinator for Habitat for Humanity. So if you are unfamiliar with what Habitat does, we build simple, decent, affordable homes for people in need. So I coordinate the volunteers. I make sure that we have people there to build these homes and get them together for the families.
Good morning. My name is Renard Jackson, and one of the things that North Central College is going through is probably what some of your institutions may be going through as well, and that is their true commitment to whether or not they're going to supply both the resources as well as the manpower to keep their veterans programs active. My role presently at North Central College is to bring new veterans into the college campus, introduce them to new ways in which they can transfer from combat to college, and also to make sure that they understand that there are other avenues out there, such as volunteerism, that can help them integrate themselves into the college. Commercial. I really want to thank both CALE, IJF, and Illinois Compact for putting this program together, because it helps, hopefully, not only people that are here, but information goes back to your administration regarding the importance of having your veterans involved.
Okay, so we're going to ask some questions now, and I'm going to start with Lindsay. Lindsay, how does your organization incorporate veterans as volunteers, and what do you think that they get out of volunteering for Habitat for Humanity?
I think volunteerism is important for anybody, but especially for veterans because, well, for me it was really an outlet to kind of give back and get away from the academics for a little while and just really put your efforts towards something you believe in again. But I also think that, it looks really great to employers and people who are, looking for internships. I think it looks great on there, your willingness to give back to your community. So yeah, I think that it's just really great all around. It's a great outlet for you to help yourself and help communities.
So many non-veterans have mentioned that veterans possess a certain personal qualities which they developed during their military service, and we wanted to ask if you've noticed anything about their work ethic or attitude that sets veterans apart from non-veterans.
Sure, they're not always recognizable. They definitely have certain quality traits. I usually we can find that they are more likely to be leaders if we need to ask a little more of them than our typical volunteers, maybe to lead a crew site or to maybe take a major shift at our restore. They're more willing to step up to that leadership role. They're also less likely to stand around and do stuff. If maybe the project leader is busy with something else, they might find something else to do on their own and stay dedicated to it. I've also realized that we have more retention with our veteran volunteers. If they do find, we call it habititis. If you really enjoy habitat, you get habititis. We find that veterans are more likely to come again and again if they find that habitat is something where their passion lies.
And how would somebody go about signing up to work for Habitat for Humanity?
Sure. We're just a simple online platform. You can go to habitatmclean.org to sign up. We also do have like a women's group. It's called Women Build. So we kind of sequester that to just women volunteers, but there's also a program through Habitat International called Veterans Build. We are trying to work to get one here in Bloomington Normal. You have to have a veteran family. So we're trying to get a veteran family through our qualifications right now. But yeah, we also have a Veterans Build. I think Peoria is doing one right now. So if you are from that area, you can look into that. So it's a build completely by veterans, which is really a blessing to all of our affiliates.
Mm-hmm. So the key idea that Illinois Campus Compact is attempting to get across is the importance of civic engagement through volunteerism, and that it can have a positive impact on the communities in which those volunteered. So what kind of impact do you see in the lives of those who are on the receiving end of Habitat for Humanity's civic work? And how much of that would you attribute to the volunteers' work?
Yeah, I am fairly new to our affiliate, so I was really just taken aback by how much it does impact our families to get this new home and to feel the community behind them. Our families are out on the build sites every Saturday with the volunteers building their homes, so they work alongside the people who help them. So we attribute it completely to the volunteers because they make the Habitat experience what it is. A lot of our families sometimes come back and help build on other homes, which is just a really great circle that we like to see. And just that they can, have their kids go to college and have a very safe place to live. But it's the volunteers that really make the process well for them, that the volunteers, encourage them to maybe do some things that they are maybe scared of, or if they're scared of going on the roof, the volunteers kind of push them along a little bit to really conquer their fears. So.
Great, thank you so much. Well, let's move on to Brian. And first, I would like to thank Brian and everybody in attendance who served in the military for your service to our country. It's a well-known idea that serving in the military can have a significant positive impact on changing personal values and building self-confidence. Brian, do you feel that this is true for you, and how have these changes in values and confidence helped you since your military service?
So I actually want to start off before I was in the military. I was 19 working as a pharmacy tech at Walgreens. I had an 18 ACT score. I was 127 out of 137 in my class, graduating high school. I wasn't very set up for success, if you can hear what I'm saying. So essentially, I joined the Marine Corps. Now, I didn't even know what a Marine was when I joined the Marine Corps. I'm serious. I had one of my buddies like, hey, join the Marine Corps with me, and I had a family going through some stuff, so I was like, all right. But, from day one in boot camp, from getting screamed at all the way to the day I left the Marine Corps, I never stopped learning about myself. That's the most fundamental thing that I gained from the military, is I learned a lot about myself. I learned my limits, I learned my abilities, that every time that I think I couldn't do something, I was able to eventually adapt and overcome or find a way around it. So, coming from being basically a lazy kid, I was able to, in the military, get meritorious promoted, combat meritorious promoted, and then earn a medal in the form of a Navy Achievement Medal. So ultimately, that transformation within 4 years has occurred within all of us.
So as a veteran who has volunteered his time to many organizations, looking back, do you feel that you have anything that you can take away from these experiences, and would you recommend volunteering to other veterans?
I would recommend volunteering for other veterans. I mean, when you see the impact and the effect that you have on people's lives, it's something grand, something that, though you think you're doing something so simple, they appreciate it. And you don't know whose lives you're touching, especially someone that you served with. When our sleep out happened, we had one of the youngest person at the homeless shelter sleep out with us. He wanted to help raise money for us. So when he gets there, lo and behold, one of our veterans from Columbia College was his gunnery sergeant, Eric LaCour. He's like, Deshaun? He's like, yes, Gunny. And he's like, what happened? So basically, we ended up raising money for someone that was served with one of our